I'd like to call to order the work session for 6 o'clock. Sorry, we're 5 minutes late. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Casanello.
Here.
Morrison.
Here.
Shannon.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Cater.
Here.
Schneider.
Okay, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we'll go through the organizational administrative items. We'll start off with, I guess, Vice Mayor. Anybody got?
I have a nomination.
Nominate.
I do.
Bob, and then I'll get you.
Okay, that's fine.
Nominate Ms. Pater to be the vice mayor.
Well, second.
Okay, I got a nomination and second. I guess I need a point of order. Do we get all the nominations and then we go for a discussion? Okay.
I would nominate Mr. Morris, Chris Morris.
I'll second.
We got a nomination and a second. So we got 2 nominations. Any more?
I hope not.
Okay, we'll start discussion. I guess to start off discussion, I would like to make sure we got a willingness from the nominees for this, and then we'll let them have a chance to speak.
Yes, sir.
Tracy Lynn?
Absolutely.
Okay, if you want to speak, we'll start with you. I
So
guess,
just
Tracy.
excited about the opportunity, being a team player and being strong in the community.
Okay.
I think it's a great opportunity to serve in that position, mostly to assist the mayor, but also being an adjoining voice in holding the mayor accountable. So I think it's a great privilege and opportunity to serve in that capacity.
Okay. Do I have anybody else who has questions that they want to give or ask?
Could I make just a comment? I think either way is fine. I know Tracy's new to the council, but I also know she's a very wise lady. So I don't think you could go wrong there. As far as Councilman Morris, he's the sitting vice mayor for the last council. And I believe that the experience there is the deciding factor in my opinion. So I think both are absolutely exceptional nominees, though. Thank you.
Yes, Bob?
Not to tip my hand, but I actually was going to nominate Chris for the PD liaison for the experience reason alone. And I believe Tracy Lynn has shown or expressed an interest in working with the business community and the social media, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to put the vice mayor in that particular circumstance where it's out front with the public and with the businesses, and I think Chris is going to be rather busy if we appoint him to the PD liaison handling that, because I'm sure that some of us are going to have a lot of questions and lay a lot of work on you.
I tend to agree with you to an extent. The issue is the PD liaison is the voice of the mayor in a lot of cases. And because there are a lot of things that are being filtered through the PD liaison in getting information from the PD to the rest of council. So I think someone in that position and having the title as vice mayor would be beneficial to them. So I think it works both ways, even for someone who is the vice mayor and also the liaison with businesses. But I think also with our PD and the trying times that we're going through, it would serve as beneficial in that person being the vice mayor. But I'll echo exactly what Steve said earlier. You know, Tracy is also an exceptional candidate for the position.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we'll put it up for a vote then.
So how this will work will be, Councilwoman Pater was the first nomination, so it'll be roll call. And then if she fails to receive the nomination, then it'll go to Councilman Morris and roll call that way as well.
Okay, so roll call on Tracy Lynn?
Weir,
Aye.
Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
No.
Morris,
No.
Pater.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That's it.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
We got a question?
No, I'll look it up later. Just procedurally, that's the town's written policy in terms of nomination procedure, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the
okay,
first-
okay. I mean,
The-
we'll get to it later. Okay, I'm good. I'm good.
Just a real quick housekeeping thing. If you guys don't mind pulling your mics a little closer to you, just so that the recording can catch it all, please. Thank you.
Okay, next item, we have the liaison appointments. I guess Planning Commission will be the first one. Joe?
Oh, Chris, Mr. Town Manager, I mean.
Yes, sir.
This is also a motion from the floor?
Correct. The majority of these will be, yes.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, and I'd like to nominate Mr. Weir to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Any other nominations? Anybody? Nope. Okay, well, first of all, do you accept?
Grudgingly.
And is there any speech you want to make before you before we vote?
No, I mean, it'll be just the same as before. It's an objective, not a subjective position. You're interpreting the ordinances and going with that. It's relatively straightforward, and we're going to, if successful, we're going to be dealing with some planning commission stuff later on in terms of application review and that sort of stuff. So I willingly accept.
Okay. Since there are no other nominations, we'll put up for vote.
Okay. Weir,
Abstain.
Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
No.
Morris, Pater.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay. ARB,
Since he's not here, and I don't want to do it, I would nominate Mr. Schneider.
I'll second.
okay, I got a motion and a second.
I just wanted to second it.
Any other nominations? Well, Marchand's not here to
Defend himself?
defend himself, so everyone who didn't want it, step backwards, right?
Yeah.
And just a point of information, Mr. Schneider did provide his resignation from his unexpired term prior to the meeting. So he's able to be the town council liaison. Just want to make sure everybody knew.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be automatic, though?
No, yes, actually.
No, you have to
he has
submit a resignation. So he submitted his resignation today.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that identifies, I guess, which seats need to be filled first on the ARB, right?
Correct. We
Yeah.
have his unexpired term and then 2 3-year terms.
Yeah, and does that include the mayor's former seat, the two?
Well, mine, I was sitting on a term that was expired.
Yeah, but I mean, does that include, are the two unexpired, are the two, that means there's 4 seats, right?
So we have, Mrs. Utz is currently sitting on the ARB. You have the town council liaison, and then the 3 other positions.
Okay.
One of which is Mr.
Planner.
Councilman Schneider's unexpired term.
Okay,
Right, and one will be the Planning Commission liaison. Okay, I guess we got to go for a roll call vote for Marchant.
Weir,
Aye.
Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon. Yes. Morris. Pater.
Yes.
Congratulations, Marchant.
If you can hear us.
Yeah. I got a text, it's probably from him. We'll go on to Finance Committee.
Mr. Mayor, if I might?
Yes.
Mr. Passanello and I were talking about this. I don't know if we really want to, correct me if I'm wrong about what we were discussing. I think rather than have a committee where you've got a limited number of people who are in, as we've seen in the past, in possession of more information than others, in theory, and seemingly driving the financial course of the town. What I would suggest, rather than having a finance committee, is having 2 liaisons to the treasurer, because we're going to need some liaisons to the treasurer if we adopt this new spending policy and the checks and balances on the checks and the spending of the town. And I would suggest that those 2 liaisons work on behalf of the council to get answers from the treasurer in particular areas, and then deliver that, and we do our, for lack of a better term, a finance committee of the whole, where we go after the budget materials and we deal with the budgetary questions at the end of each month during the work session. And that way you've got 2 people who are looking at the checks incoming and outgoing, and working with the treasurer to give you a better picture of where we stand fiscally and where potential issues arise. And I'm going to have some questions later on for the treasurer. But rather than incorporate so much power, quote unquote, into a committee, just leave it at a liaison status and have the council as a whole work as a finance committee at the work session at the end of the month, if that makes sense. Does that pretty much cover it?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And the reason why, I think it makes it more efficient, and it gives every council member the opportunity to be involved in that financial discussion a week before the regular meeting. So I think we all become better informed as to all the details of what's happening on the payments and the receivables and what the projections are. And I think it's more efficient, too, for staff if we kind of combine that into a work session and have that in the agenda.
And to that end, the 2 liaisons I would suggest are the ones that are going to be responsible for, you wanted it done on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I thought, the check review?
We usually do it on Thursday.
We would have an initial review on Tuesday, and then I guess whoever does it on Thursday would ostensibly be one of the ones with check signing authority, which I don't want. The person on Thursday could then countersign the checks or co-sign the checks that have already been executed by the town manager or the treasurer. And we'll get further into that when we get into the financial policy.
I'm trying to understand it, though. Are you saying, because I'm hearing 2 things. You're saying 2 liaison, but then Joe is saying the whole council.
What we're saying is that the 2 liaisons for weekdays, talking to the staff, particularly the treasurer, but have the committee discussion, for lack of a better term, during the work session, so that we're all apprised of the latest financials a week before our meeting. And that's what we discuss at our meeting, our regular meeting, a week later.
I think that makes sense, but I tend to want to lean towards having those liaisons more in tune with what's going on a day-to-day basis, or even every other day basis, because there's so much stuff that can get that you cannot wait for that one meeting to find out.
And that's, well, that gets to the Tuesday, Thursday thing. Because of the spending policy that we're likely to adopt, there's going to be weekly review. There's going to be 2 sets of eyes on every check. That's why there's a need for 2 liaisons. One to do a preliminary check, and then somebody to come back and have any questions answered that are existent for any of the outstanding bills, and then execute the checks that have already been approved.
So if we were to eliminate what Joe said, in every council member should be involved on a, so if we eliminate that section, we would still have two liaisons that they're able to test the temperature and know what's going on a regular basis.
Correct.
Okay. Because I was getting two feedback, like, okay, it's not two, it's just everyone going in, but I think it's so sensitive that you need consistency. And then if we were to go with what Joe suggested with every person there, it would somewhat be unfair on our staff, because then they have 6 people that they're trying to feed information, whilst with what you're suggesting, they basically have 2 people that they're feeding information, and those 2 feed to a larger extent the rest of the council.
You said it much more eloquently than I did.
Yeah, and ostensibly, when you get to the work session, it should be.
Right.
It should be smoother, but.
It should be. Right. Because I do remember that there were things that were discussed at the finance committee level that it took so much time in ironing out that they needed 2, sometimes 3 council members to iron it out. So by the time it got to the town council, all the T's have been crossed, all the contracts have been reviewed. So there's so much need to have a finance committee meeting with what we're suggesting, 2 liaisons.
And I think that monthly work session where you would do it as a committee of the whole, so that everybody sees the contracts, everybody sees the details, everybody sees the numbers all at the same time, and then we can make an educated decision as to what we are or we are not going to fund, or what policy measures we're going to take, or what steps we're going to take. Get it scheduled for the next council meeting a week later and get it done, so that everybody's on the same page and everybody has an opportunity to voice their concerns or support.
Yep.
No, I'm fine with that, but that doesn't determine who signs the checks, correct? That's a different issue.
That's a separate issue.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Councilwoman Tracy Lynn?
Oh, I'm
Fader?
good.
Okay, I have a few questions. I want to look at the people who are executing this process. Roberto, do you feel this impedes what you need to get done, or does this help improve from the previous organizational structure that you had?
I feel that it improves it, because then we have, like the decision isn't made by one or two persons. It's open to the council, so I feel like it will improve it. And I feel like this is a best way to also introduce council as a whole to how the budget works as well, and get a better understanding of it.
Okay.
So I have no issue there. I think if anything, it's just will improve the process.
Okay. And a question for Town Manager Kuhn. I think we pretty much agreed that we're looking at having a weekly status report from you, correct?
Yes, sir.
With this part of the Treasury report, when we do come into any type of incidentals that the liaisons would be dealing with, it would be trickled up on a report weekly to all of us. Is that correct?
If they indicated that I should add that to the report, absolutely. I'd put it on
Okay.
the report and provide some background information so you all are made aware that week.
Yeah. So for your concern, Councilman Morris, I guess that weekly status at least percolates up that what type of activities have occurred and gives you a cue on whether you need to ask questions or not. Would you be happy with that?
I'm good with that. The main reason I brought it up is for consistency. Because if we were going with the aspect of what Joe suggested, there could be a lot of inconsistencies if it was left on the 7 of us. But if there were 2 individuals that are assigned as the liaisons for the finance committee, there's more consistency. So it's like 1 month you have Steve and I as the 2 guys who are there attending the meetings, and the next month is Bob and Joe, and the next month you and Tracy Lynn. So there's inconsistency there. But if we have 2 individuals who are assigned as the liaisons, there would be more consistency, which is what we need, especially with the finance committee. I just found that to be very there were issues when I came back on council in November. There was a disconnect between the finance committee and the rest of the council. So when issues were brought up to the council at town council meeting, there was a disconnect between what was discussed at the finance committee level, because they dealt with so many things and they were doing a good job. But there was a disconnect between them and the town council because it was as if they were giving a report. What we are proposing now is going to eliminate that. It's going to have consistency, which is what we had in the past, except in the past it was mostly one person. Now it's two. And it's going to inform the rest of the town council as a whole on the different things that are going through with the finances.
Bob, did you?
No, it's repetitive on my part.
Just one other little thing about this is doing it at the work session too is very informative for the public, because we'll be doing it here, I hope, out in the open, very transparent, and
Yes.
we'll have those discussions.
Yes.
So I think there's a real benefit for the residents and the taxpayers.
I nominate Mr. Passanello to the Finance Committee.
Okay, you got a nomination and a second. I guess a point of order for, or point of information on my half. Since we're looking at two liaisons, are we doing 2 rounds of voting? Or are we selecting all of them and then picking one and then?
We can do it that way. We can do 2 separate, if you want to
Okay.
do it that way. Since we have the nomination in the second for Councilman Passanello, we can go ahead and start roll call.
First, we got to get all the nominations for the first round for the liaison. Councilman?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Weir as
Sec-
the other liaison.
Second.
Okay, I got a second on Mr. Weir. I don't think I got a second for,
Yes, Tracy.
Tracy Lynn seconded.
and since there are 2 of them, like I said, we're going to do 1 round and then the other.
There's
So
there's
right
only
now,
2.
they're competing against each other, so unless there's no other nominations.
Nope.
No other nominations, then we might as well take a vote for both of them coming in at once, and if that denies, then we'll do single.
Okay,
Too tired.
okay, so this is a vote for Councilman Weir and Councilman Passanello for Finance Committee. Weir,
Aye.
Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon. Morris,
Yes. And yes.
Pater.
Were we doing 2 separate ones or just
Yes.
one?
Just one. She
Because
did-
I'm a yes and a no.
She asked for 2. She did both of them together.
That was what we asked for, correct?
Yeah, that's what I was assuming.
That's why I
since-
said yes,
Since
yes.
we just had a pair.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Shannon had a no, had a yes and a no somewhere there.
I had a yes for Mr. Passanello, no for Mr. Weir. But if it's only one vote, then it would be no.
Okay, I think out of all of it, though, it boils down to congratulations. Okay, let's move on to the police department.
Mr. Weir?
As I let the cat out of the
Jumping up
bag
real quick
earlier,
on this.
I would nominate Mr. Morris as the PD liaison.
And I would second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other nominations?
Yes.
Okay, one quick confirmation for acceptance and all that stuff. You're good with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll put it up for a vote.
Weir, Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Morris, Pater.
Okay, that does it for the liaison appointments. Now we'll move on to town council rules and procedures and policies. No one's jumping up on that one?
I thought Chris was jumping up on that one, but.
So we have provided the clean copies in the report. However, if you want some red line versions, I've got them here to discuss.
Here.
The red line that changes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need a copy too, please.
Mr. Mayor, if it'd be helpful, I can read off the 6 amendments or paraphrase them, if that'll be helpful.
Yeah, go ahead.
The amending section 2.1, which regards when and where the regular meetings are held, changing the council work session from 5 p.m. on the last Monday of the month prior to the regular council meeting to 7 p.m. on the last Monday of the month by itself. The second one is section 4.2 regarding delivery of the agenda. The council meeting packet, including the agenda and related materials, shall be delivered to each member of the council and the town attorney the Friday 1 week That red line didn't come out right in the print.
Section,
4.42.
Shall be delivered, it's 1 week prior to the work session and the council meetings. Let's see if it took in the,
yeah, it did.
did it take in the regular one?
It took on the agenda package.
Okay. It must just be my printing then. The third one is citizens' participation. It strikes B11, which was, what was B11?
12 noon, date of the council meeting.
Once the council has heard a presentation from an individual or organization on a particular subject that has been previously denied by the town council or for which the town council declined to advance consideration thereof, the individual or organizations may not make another presentation on the same subject within 3 months of the first presentation, except by a majority vote of the members of the council present and voting. If somebody wants to come in here and gripe about one of our decisions each and every month, I don't have an issue with them doing it. And I think that's all that does is squelch that opportunity. It also amends Section E, which allows people to present written statements to the council.
The date of the meeting?
The day of the meeting, by 12 noon on the meeting date. Section 5.4 just massages the personal behavior, I think, as we've all seen at the county, and restricts the prohibited conduct largely down to use of obscenities and speech tending to create breach of the peace. And 5.7, I don't remember what the exact language on that was.
That was items not on the agenda. That was walking stuff in.
Now striking section A4 and A7.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm ahead of you.
5.7.
5.4, interrupt other speakers or engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting, including but not limited to applause, cheers, jeers.
Okay. And then items not on the agenda, amending to unanimous consent for adding agenda items at the last minute. And then on section 6.7 on procedural motions, striking the prohibition on reconsideration of rezonings and conditional use permits.
Got any discussion on this?
I just have one point for clarification on staff's part. When you state the Friday 1 week prior to the Tuesday work session,
I think that means Monday. I think that's where it got goofed up in the
the
in
Friday
the printing.
prior to that Monday.
I think it's supposed to read. What section was that?
4.2.
4.2?
4.2, so on packet page 7 of your work session, it reads as 1 week prior to Monday work session and
Right.
1 week prior to Monday regular council meeting.
Yeah, the Friday is inadvertently in the struck text, and I don't know why. It should just be it should just be 1 week, which would mean the Monday prior to the following Monday's meetings. I mean, it's struck in the language, but I don't know why it's not struck in the amendment. But the language is correct.
Okay, so that means that if we're going to have the work session on the 27th, we'll have to have the agenda out on 20th, the work
20th.
session.
Correct.
And then the 27th, we'll have to have the agenda out for August 3rd.
Correct.
Okay, same day as the
It's
work
just, yeah,
session.
same day, yeah, correct.
So then we won't be able to take the work session
We can amend
information
it.
or requests into account for that.
We can amend it.
agenda. Okay.
Let's go back to that. That means, what you're saying, Chris, is
So what that would mean right now is that, so for July, if we enact this and we start having a work session on July 27th, staff would have to get an agenda packet out on the 20th.
okay.
And then we would have to do an additional agenda packet out on the 27th prior to the meeting, the work session meeting that we hold on the 27th.
But that's not, that won't help us because we need the discussions. Go ahead.
Would it make sense if we changed the timing for the regular council work session to the Tuesday prior? Does that give you the leeway you need?
So what I was thinking would be beneficial is the 20th is fine for the 27th, and then maybe what we would do is like the 29th, so like the Wednesday after. So what that does is during the work session, if questions arise from council or you guys want additional information, that would give us 2 days essentially to compile that information to put it for the regular meeting. So that way it's just more information. That's how I was understanding this, but.
I mean, I would prefer it out sooner rather than later, but if it's not going to work for practical purposes earlier than Wednesday, I'm amenable to amending it to Wednesday.
Because I also don't see much change or much variant in the agenda from the 20th to the 29th. It should just be additional information, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Is that it's not going to change much. So the original content and what's being discussed that we send out on the 20th will be the same that you all are taking action on the 3rd.
In that case, would Tuesday afternoon work for you as opposed to Wednesday? That gives the public one more day?
If you would like, but I mean, all we're discussing is additional information.
Could we have it Tuesday or latest Wednesday? So definitely we ruled out Monday. That is virtually impossible.
Yeah.
It's not practical.
It would be the same agenda, is what
Right.
it essentially would be. If we did it Monday and Monday, because we wouldn't have the meeting, we wouldn't have any discussion.
Right.
So we would just re-advertise.
Whatever you had, because there may be agenda items for the Monday meeting that you wouldn't have for the work session, but,
But is there any way we could word it where it is Tuesday or Wednesday? Like the wording of it means that it gets out on Tuesday, but you have until Wednesday should you need the extra time. Does that make sense?
why don't we just say by Wednesday?
Okay, by Wednesday. it's fine with me.
By Wednesday,
And staff will do our best to get it out Tuesday. And if
Tuesday,
it
exactly.
absolutely just can't happen, then it'll get out Wednesday at the latest.
amended as
Exactly.
such.
Of course, the objective is to get it out as soon as possible.
Yes.
That's really the key here.
So we'll just, for clarity's sake, we'll just say Wednesday prior to the Monday regular council meeting, with the understanding that you will effort getting it out Tuesday. That's fine with me.
Mr. Weir. Item 8. It's section 5.8.
5.8.
Is a representative of a civic association, a homeowners association, or any organizations formally recognized and current with internal review services.
We took that straight from the county's procedures.
Okay, so what if I show up and said, I am the representative for the Long Street Commons northeast section of the, I said, I need my 10 minutes.
Do you have your charter, bylaws, corporate certificates?
Okay. I don't, but I'm sure, I could get a couple of kids to sign it to show that I have an attendance of 3 people at least.
That's what it would require.
Okay. You understand where I'm going with this?
I don't think the intent here is to suppress anybody speaking, especially for a group. We just want to be sure who's representing who and that they're a legitimate group, because what that ends up doing is they end up taking more time away from the residents during citizens'
I
time.
understand.
So we want to be fair.
I've literally, when speaking before the county, I've literally had to identify the organization before, because it's actually been called into question. And, you know, when I was doing it on behalf of organizations, I was doing it generally on 501c3s or C4s. And that's sufficient, or an HOA. No, it's a chartered organization. But yeah, I mean, and the reason that the county did it was you had these people who were making up groups and taking hours of the county time, particularly during several of the more contentious debates they had. So the county just adopted this language to sort of squelch that.
Any more discussion?
In that case, I would move the rules as amended.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. Put it up for vote.
Weir,
Aye.
Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon. Morris. Pater.
Yes.
Okay, reappointment of the existing policies.
Did we want, Chris, were we gonna change the spending policies for, the payables, receivables, and check signing policy, and were you gonna amend the
Correct. So
spending policy?
the spending policy, I found the current one, which is in your packet, and then the payables, receivable, and check signing policy. You all have, that I believe the edits were already made, where basically it is the town manager and the town council designee, essentially for each item, and then the check providing the total amount not greater than $3,000 was changed from $3,000 to $1,000. Those are really the only changes.
Chris, I'm sorry, say it again. Yourself as a town manager and one of the council members?
Correct, so it would be a town council designee.
Okay. Previously, was it the mayor or vice mayor?
It was, well, correct. So the mayor or vice mayor were signers for the checks. So essentially what this would mean is with this policy, it would come into town hall, the town clerk would review it and make sure that it is in fact a bill for the town, submit that to the treasurer. The treasurer then review it and articulate what line item it's going to come from, and then have a authorization for a signature. It then comes to myself to sign that authorization. And now with these updates, it'll then go to a town council designee to sign the authorization as well. Once they have my signature and the town council designee signature, it'll then go back to the treasurer to cut the check. And then once the check is cut, then if it's more than $1,000, it will be myself as well as a town council designee signer sign it if it's more than $1,000, and then we would be able to send it out.
So it could be a town councilman or the mayor?
Correct. Whoever town council designees as the signer as well as the reviewer. So
Okay,
this
got
would
it.
just be two, and from my understanding, the finance committee, so Councilman Weir and Councilman Passanello will be the individuals to review, and then we have yet to have the discussion on the signers designated by the town
Okay,
council.
thank you.
If they're reviewing, can they be one of the signees?
Yes, that is up to town council. That just has yet to happen, so. But yes, you could have either or both be a signer. We just have to fill out paperwork at the bank to have that happen, which we have to actually nominate signers for the bank this evening as well. So that's one of the next items.
Mr. Kuhn, with respect to making the payables, receivables, and check signing policy jive with the expenditure of town funds, do we need to make one change where any purchase over $3,000 is changed to $1,000, or is that fine with this policy?
So if you would like the expenditure, that would include credit cards and items like that. However, the check signing, this is when we get an invoice.
I just realized I'm being an idiot, because this regards the checks themselves, and this regards, no, I'm good, forget it.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for wasting everyone's time. In that case, Mr. Mayor, I would,
Hold on a second, Bob. But this is only in regard to the 1,000? Or any amount over that?
Any amount over $1,000, if we adopt the payables, receivable, and check signing, any check that is cut for more than $1,000 will require 2 signatures.
It's an added control.
I understand the part that I'm uncomfortable with is whoever is reviewing it can sign it.
Yeah, same here.
I think it should be separate.
Yeah, so whoever is,
But that's part of the authorization, which comes up next.
I can actually speak to that. When Joe and I were talking about the liaisons earlier, and one of the reasons I made a direct statement that I want nothing to do with the dirty money and the authority to sign it is that you've got one person with the authority to sign it and one person that doesn't. And if one of the liaisons who's reviewing the checks puts a question mark on it, that doesn't get signed until the council or the town manager explains it. That way we don't have sole authority, review, signature. If there's a question, then it gets held back. Does that address the concern?
not really, because then it probably would be better if you have one reviewer and one signer. So whoever is reviewing it this week doesn't sign the checks. The other person signs them. So if you have 2 liaisons on the finance committee,
One's going to review it on Tuesday and one's going to review it on Thursday.
whoever reviews it before is not the person who signs it.
Correct. So I would review on Tuesday without, for example, I would review on Tuesday without signatory authority, and if I didn't like something and had a question about it, we would flag it. Joe could look at it but not sign it.
Exactly. So I think we might be on the same page here. We're just trying to go around making sure it's clarified where Joe doesn't review it. Let me pick on Joe. Joe doesn't review it on Tuesday. You're out of town. Joe shows up on Thursday and signs the checks. How do we prevent that from happening?
Somebody else will have to come in and do the review.
I think that's where the mayor comes in.
Works for me. And it would be up to, I guess if we're going to work this out that way, then it would be up to me to notify the mayor that I couldn't come in on Tuesday.
Exactly.
It'd be my responsibility, and
Right.
the onus would be on me.
Is there any verbiage that needs to be clarified in these documents for that?
No.
The only thing that I may recommend is that if we're going to adopt the edits, do that, and then subsequently, then dictate which town council designee. So if you wanted to dictate, town council wants to designate Councilman Weir as the reviewer in accordance with the payables, receivable, and check signing policy, so that way you all are articulating that he is in fact the reviewer for that. That is your designee, and then you can go into making the motion that Councilman Passanello will be the check signer. However, we will need a second check signer.
That's where the mayor comes
Can we
in.
do that? We've got that scheduled as item 2 in this section, right?
Correct. So that's what the only one I did not have that I forgot to add on is to designate who will be the reviewer designation from town council.
Okay.
So if you all want to make the edits and then do the designee specifically for the reviewer, I think that'd be advantageous.
Let's get the
Question.
public-
Would it be beneficial if the reviewer does have someone who backs them up and not the mayor? And the check signee person has the mayor that backs them up in that case? So with the scenario, it's Bob is reviewing on Tuesdays. If Bob is unable to make it, Tracy Lynn will be the one who reviews it.
The alternate? That's fine with me.
On Thursdays, if Joe is unable to sign, the mayor comes and signs.
Works for me.
Any other thoughts?
I believe the mayor or vice mayor should be on the signature authority, one of the two, regardless of how else we work it. I believe one of the two should be a signature authority.
And that's how this would work, where the mayor backs up Joe on signing and the vice mayor backs up.
The only thing, we've got to get the policy out first, and then we've got to determine the town signatories. But it's, for the moment, it's get the policy in place on the spending, and then we're going to need to take care of the mechanics of getting it done.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mhm.
In which case, I would move the payables, receivables, and check signing policy as amended.
We got a motion,
Second.
we got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion.
I'm not completely sure what we're voting here. I understand the two reviewers, Mr. Weir and Mr. Passanello.
It's Bob Weir is the reviewer.
No, this is simply the spending policies.
Later on, we're going to talk about it.
Got it. Okay,
The
Pages
review is on the
21 and
next item.
22.
got it.
Just point of clarification, this is not the spending policy, this is the payables, receivable, and check signing policy.
Right.
So this is just to do with the
The
checks.
spending policy is next.
Yes.
Yeah, this is pages 21 and 22, right,
Correct.
in the packet.
Yeah. Okay, I got a motion and a second. I think we're good with discussion, right? Okay, we'll put it up for a vote.
Weir,
Aye.
Passanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Hayter.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to
We got one more.
the spending policy.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we readopt the policy regarding the expenditure of town funds, currently listed as POL 20140707.
And that's strictly adopt, there's no additions
No
to it,
amendments.
right?
No amendments.
I got one question here, Mr. Weir. It does not state on this that we require 3 bids, unless I'm missing it.
I thought that did.
I thought it did too. Requires a formal bid package. What is a formal bid package?
And that's over 10,000.
Yes, that's the one in particular that I'm drawing attention to, that over 10,000, we should have.
I'll be more than happy to mark it up.
Amend it.
3, Chris?
Yes.
I believe, I agree.
Where would you like to add 3?
Probably in that second paragraph.
For everything over 10 grand?
Yes.
So requires a formal bid package approved by the town manager, advertisement for bid, and submission to the town manager for selection and approval of the winning bid. The winning bid means the bid from the lowest and responsive. What the town's purpose? I thought we had 3 in here somewhere. Where did it go?
Thought so too until last year, a couple of months ago when an issue arose when I didn't find it. Roberto and Chris, does this pose a problem with bids over 10,000? Do you suspect? You're nodding your head to me, attorney. Hold on
Forward
a
my
second.
time to the attorney.
Sir.
Yeah, I respond to that. Yeah, there are circumstances where there just aren't 3 bids available. And you can sometimes not even find 3 people to solicit, depending on what you're looking to procure. So if, rather than have a hard and fast 3 bid requirement, I would suggest that you have the capacity for the town manager to document why 3 bids were not available.
And that's pretty standard through government.
Correct.
So I would agree with that.
So would you not put 3 in it, in the policy?
You can put 3 in there,
Okay.
but you could have the safety valve
Okay,
saying
okay.
that if the town manager cannot find 3 vendors to submit bids, then he can document why.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, since we're talking about bidding, when is it appropriate to have a sole source bid?
If the Virginia Public Procurement Act applied to you, you could have a sole source bid when it is not practicable to find any more than one source. So if there is a monopoly, an actual monopoly, you don't get to select a electric vendor because VEPCO has this territory. So in that circumstance, and a couple of other circumstances, but in those circumstances, you would have to document why there were no other vendors available.
Do you want to,
I would say we add the 3, and unless the town manager can substantiate that there is no need for it, however you want to word it.
Exception, documented exception.
I think it protects us.
the winning bid shall mean the bid from the lowest responsive
That's
and
what I'm getting.
responsible bidder. Winning bid means the bid from the lowest responsible and responsible bidder. A minimum
Even that sentence I don't like. The sentence that says, the winning bid means the bid from the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
What is that? I mean,
That doesn't necessarily mean the lowest one is the one who we should go with. We may have institutional knowledge with a bid that comes a little bit higher, and because of our history, we want to go with that company that works.
but at the end of the day, we're going to be the ones making the decision, not the town manager.
That's true, but our verbiage says the lowest.
Yeah.
Should be business needs dictate. May not be the lowest.
Lowest sound technical bid,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mr. Krim, is that language required?
No, you're not subject to the VPPA, so you can adopt such rules as you see fit.
So if we want to strike that entire sentence, which I don't have an issue with, and a minimum of 3 bids
Unless,
are required,
help us here, Mr. Grimm.
but the town manager may provide a
Documentation
provide
showing his
documentation showing, okay.
inability to obtain 3 bids.
Perfect.
And then you want to have a sentence saying that the town council will select, what was the phrase?
Based on business needs.
Based on business needs.
As it says right now, the follow-on sentence is the town manager will report to the town's appropriate subcommittee, who will forward a recommendation to the town council for final approval prior to awarding the contract. I would suggest we just say the town manager will report to the town council for final approval prior to awarding the contract, and we can have the discussion at that level about what's in our best interest without putting it down in writing. And there's no objection, I'll get a cleaned up copy to Chris based on this.
Would you like to also amend the motions you made? You did make a motion for this.
I withdraw my earlier motion.
So,
I would now move the amended policy.
Second.
and we got the second back. Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm just kidding.
Weir,
Aye.
Casanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Okay, now are we down to town council designees? I'm assuming that's for signatures. Is that right?
We will need one for the reviewer, so I would almost have to nominate Councilman Weir, and was it Vice Mayor Pater as town council designees to review checks?
You guys good with that?
So moved.
Second.
Weir,
Aye.
Casanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And now for signature authority.
And correct, so with the signature authority, then it would just be a motion that Councilman Passanello and Mayor Lurson are authorized check signers with the town.
I would suggest we need more than 2.
Well, we also have myself.
I would still suggest there be at least 2 council members, just in case.
I'm comfortable with one council and the mayor, myself.
For now, we'll just watch him.
Keep your eye on me. Okay, so did I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, put it up for vote.
Weir,
Aye.
Pasanello,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Morris. Pater.
Yes.
Okay, now signers with the bank.
Oh,
That was-
sorry. My apologies. I thought that's what we were doing there.
Well, it kind of melded it together with designees and signers. So, okay. Then
Well, the signers will be the individuals designated in this policy. It's just killing two birds with one stone is all that
Yeah,
was. So
exactly.
we have Councilman Pasanello and yourself will be signers with the bank. So later we'll,
You'll get with us and we'll go to the bank and. put
correct,
in a
we'll get all the
signature card.
documentation you need and we'll get that squared away.
Okay. Okay, contact attorney policy.
Have a discussion on this? Or, Chris, were you going to say something, or we're going to have a discussion on this?
Yes, this was requested. Councilman Weir, would you like to discuss?
I would suggest that with respect to the council, the policy be revoked. And I know it sounds counterintuitive to what I generally stand for, because it does run up the bills, or has the potential for running up the bills. But, and Chris will explain in a moment, how he interacts with the town attorney on a weekly basis. But there are points in time at which every councilman up here may find themselves in need of having a question answered quickly. And I would rather not handcuff any particular member of this council by restricting them to going through a protocol to pick up the phone or preferably email the town attorney with a question of some dire importance. That being said, it's my understanding the town manager has a weekly phone call.
Correct.
In order to maximize the efficiency and lower the cost, I would suggest that any member of this council or the mayor who has a question that requires that type of answer, have that question forwarded to the town manager, as is currently the practice, I believe.
Correct.
And have those questions answered and the answer disseminated to everybody by the town manager. And I would suggest that we make this change assuming that everybody is going to be responsible. And if everyone is not responsible and we start seeing higher bills, let's say by October or November, then I will personally move to revisit this policy at that point in time.
Hold on, you're saying two things.
Yeah.
Initially you're saying anyone can contact the attorney,
Any member of this council who has a particular question that cannot wait, yeah.
but then you're saying that whoever has a question, email it to the town manager?
If you've got just a garden variety, you can wait till Wednesday.
Oh, so you're saying both?
Yeah, both.
Each council member can pick up the phone?
It's preferable that they work through the town manager, but if there's something that you've got to have an answer on, and it can't wait, or you don't want to go through the town manager with it for whatever personal reason you've got, then you can contact the town attorney directly for it. I'm just asking everybody to be responsible and use discretion. I'd rather not handcuff everybody.
I tend to disagree with that change. I tend to prefer everything, and from personal experience, I've had that conversation that I needed to have with the town attorney. And what the town manager did was, on his regular call with the attorney, he joined me in on the phone call, and it didn't cost the town anything. I'm just worried that I don't want to wait until October to see our bills going up to then cut back or have another resolution.
The reason I bring this up is, and again, this is based on past experience, sometimes with land use questions, you run out of time in a great big hurry. And I'll be honest with you, that's my principal concern, is just leaving an avenue there. I personally also believe the Planning Commission chair and not so much the ARB chair, but I believe the Planning Commission chair should have the same authority. Because there are issues that come up right before a meeting, during a meeting, whatever. And I'd rather not have the Planning Commission handcuffed at a time when they're making a land use decision. I mean, that could get real expensive in another fashion. if they make the wrong decision.
I can understand the need for it. I'm just not comfortable, personally, I'm not comfortable with having every person.
It bothers the fiscal side of me, yes, it bothers it greatly, but
Just to know where we're coming from in the last 6 years,
Yeah.
it goes against what it is that we've tried to curtail over the last 6 years.
it gives me heartburn to make this motion, it really does.
Is there any way we can make some type of a funnel point for this? Like make some contact person responsible for participating in these conversations?
Mr. Mayor, if I could? I agree 100% with Councilman Morris. If there was an extreme emergency, then Chris can be get in contact with. I don't think anyone here should have that avenue just to call the the attorney anytime they want. Go through Chris for the weekly. If it's something that needs, and what Bob said is fact, if it's something land use or something right away, I don't see why Chris can't be contacted, or you. I believe you two should be the ones that should call the town council. If there's an emergency, if there's an issue, if I have an issue with the town staff, I don't want him to know about it, then I should give you the courtesy to call you and say, I want to talk to the town attorney because I have an issue with the staff I don't want them to know about. But otherwise, I would say go through the town manager. If we can't get him, to go through you.
Take the mask off. Okay. So if I'm understanding this right, Mr. Weir, you're basically okay with the policy except for you do not want to handcuff council members in a situation where it might be an emergency or some kind of an extreme problem.
Yes.
Is that it? So overall, the policy is okay as it is, but we would like to have an exception in here?
Correct.
So why don't we just adopt an exception that makes sense and enter that into this? Chris, please.
One suggestion that I may have that is if it is an emergency,
Feedback, where's the mic?
All right. So my suggestion could be if it's an emergency or something like that, if one of you all have an emergency that you need to get in touch with the town attorney, if you just reach out with me before, if I have 3 or 4 questions that I am planning to ask that week, then maybe all I would do is say, okay, well, in your discussion with the attorney that is the emergency, can you also ask these 3 or 4 questions for me? So then that way what it'll do is it would actually just replace that weekly meeting. So we continue to have the weekly meeting. It just, I would not be the one to have that phone conversation at that point in time. If it's something that I shouldn't be privy to or something like that, that's an alternative.
I'm amenable to that, yeah.
That's good. That's anytime? I mean, like I said, if the planning commission is holding their meeting and all of a sudden something comes up immediately there, you know, that's off schedule right there. So I'm assuming that we have an agreement with the attorney that any off-schedule meetings also has an increase in fee.
I was going to ask if he has time and a half.
Yeah.
They don't use time and a half.
No,
Go from 1 to 3.
I read his billing.
The time is the same regardless of when the call occurs, but what we found is that by putting a bunch of questions together for one weekly call, that it's more efficient than having numerous calls through the week. That's where the time savings comes in. And, you know, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you have to talk more than once. And other weeks, there's nothing to talk about, so we just cancel the meeting.
I tend to disagree with the suggestion Chris made in handing over his questions for that council member to ask the town attorney the questions. You're the point of contact. You are the town manager. You're the person who should be getting these questions and fielding these questions. So I would feel uncomfortable taking your questions on a topic that I may not have expertise in, ask my personal question, and then ask your 3. So I'd rather it continue going through you. But that's just my personal view on the contact to the attorney. It should go through you, and as Steve said, if it's something concerning a staff member and he doesn't want you to know about it, then go through the mayor.
When is the meeting usually?
Wednesdays at 1:30.
Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, this isn't a hill that I'm going to die on, so I would simply reaffirm the existing policy. Move to reaffirm the existing policy.
However, Mr. Weir, you did mention importantly, the planning commission chair, who probably does not have this at his disposal currently.
Currently, he would ask myself or Emily the question, and then if it needed to
Yeah.
work its way to the attorney, that's when we would.
And I'm assuming that if we're prepared for the meeting in time, that
We
they
should be
should be
fine.
able to be asked before the meeting even occurs.
Yes, I think it's fine.
Not a hill I'm going to die on.
Fair enough.
And I think, again, with the experience that I've had where you ask me, jump on a call, I spend my time, I ask my question, and you tell me, get off the call, and I got off the call.
Correct. And moving forward, I'll continue that. If you all have questions that you're able to wait until Wednesday at 1:30, I'll absolutely call you in. Just, let me know either that day or day before, and you don't need to tell me what the question is, especially if you're going to be on the call with me. I've got no problem with that.
Okay, well, I want to try and cut this short. We're already 10 minutes into our meeting, so since Bob pretty much said he would die on it, do I have a motion just to continue with?
He made the
Already
motion.
made the
He made the motion. And I'll-
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any last discussions before we close it up? Okay, put it up for vote.
Weir. Aye. Passanello.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Peter. Yes.
Okay, last thing is meeting calendar. Chris?
With no objection, we'll just, with the updates made to the town council policy and procedure, we'll just update a new calendar and we'll bring that to the August meeting. And you guys can vote on it then.
That? Okay,
Do we need to schedule the July work session in that case tonight?
Yes.
okay. So I guess we need to schedule the July work session, and when is that? I don't have
The
my
August
calendar.
work
Or the
session.
August works, well, the July work session.
Well,
That
Last
will
week
be
in
July 27th.
August work session in July.
Yeah,
Yeah, July
for the
27th.
August meeting, yeah.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Quick,
Is there a reason to have the work session start at 7 instead of 6?
just to give time for any citizens who are working late, who have a late shift, to be able to participate or view the meeting, live streaming.
Okay.
I also like it for consistency. If everything starts at 7, then
Yeah,
there's
no
never any
confusion.
question.
Yeah, no.
A council member that kind of showed up late once, like an hour late.
Don't look at me.
It was me, man. It was me.
I was good.
So what date do we need to?
So this is
July 27th.
moved to add a work session meeting on July 27th
July 27th.
at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Everyone in agreement? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, is that good for this meeting? Can we close it out?
Correct.
Okay, let's,
Just go straight
Close
into
this out.
regular meeting.
we'll go straight into the regular meeting. Does anybody need a break before we go into regular meeting, though?
It's just about 2 minutes to get the recording back up. It looks like it's working.
You can do that.
Okay.
I see a familiar face in the back.
Yeah, so do I.
Usually not into the shorts.
Yeah, what's that character doing in town?
So I have this meeting up. If Marchant can get on, he's going to jump on. So if anybody sees Marchant,